Hi everyone. Here's another video when I would like to talk about a what is it called? Um, Philosophy of law. Since we were talking about the Franz Kafka and access to the law, the question is, um, since we've seen in short story Before the Law, who can gain access to the law? And as we see a lot today, the authorities and protest and racial discrimination and all that stuff. And Kafka, certainly going back to 1930s, Kafka described the situation of especially the Jewish problem that European societies would racially basing their stuff, their ideology on, and especially ideology that was based on social Darwinism, and that started in early 19th century through and then to German nationalism, then going back down. But Kafka, talking about the law, um, Kafka explores this, gives this idea of how human lives are affected by the people in law and by the people that are supposed to provide the protection. Rather, they go and arrest people. They put him. They don't even put him to trial. It's called like something similar to what mafia used to have: punishment without trial or execution without a trial. So having that access to the law is very, very important. But um, who has the access to the law? Well, if you can pay good attorneys, you can have access to the law. And this is another thing that Kafka, the injustices that we see within the legal system. Now, no system is perfect, but when you have injustices like death penalty, where innocent people were, executed and or put on a death row for things that they did not do, and then the courts refuse to review the cases. Sometimes even Supreme Court has turned down death row cases. Um, but this is very important when we're talking about law and the rule of the law and how it plays out in a society. If you, for example, as we see in protests and then as we see in all kinds of situations where discrimination is in question or certain biases by police, by judges, by authorities, you're not going to have justice. You're going to have injustice, and the injustice is going to be so vast and so gross to people that are being affected. So to to have that equal access to the law, it is very important to level the playing field. That means to have reforms, to have process where people can have access to the law. Having a public defender, yes, legally, public defender has to be provided, but the question is that how, what is this legal defender can do? Because he's part of the system, and he's part of the system, but yet that public defender is not part of the system because he has to do certain things according to the policies of the court and all that stuff. So we're talking about people that are poor, cannot afford attorneys, find themselves in a situations whether they did anything or they didn't do anything, in really dangerous situations where the legal system can suck the people in and just put them through the system and send them to corrections. And corrections is, there are certain things that can be corrected, and there are certain things that cannot be corrected. And so having the whole system from arrest all the way to the incarceration is literally a process that needs to be revised and changed. Uh, Police needs to be trained, needs to be not just training through police academy, but also needs to be trained how to handle sensitive situations, such as if the police officer is confronted with a person of a different race, there has to be certain safeguards and certain ways to understand where that person who are you confronting comes from. What are their cultural background? What are their affiliations? Knowing what communities are you policing and what that community wants you to do. I think it's called knowing people, getting to know people, and people can help. But at the same time, you can't just use brutality to indiscriminately on one race and not on the other, or you shouldn't be using brutality on all races. Yet, okay, well, this is why access to the law is very important, and who has that access to the law, and whether you are white or black, if you don't have the money, you can't afford to provide, you can't afford a great representation. Yes, we can talk about O.J. Simpson, who, of course, famous football player, and he could afford Johnny Cochran, Alan Dershowitz, and all that, but not everybody can do that, or at least 95 or 96% of people cannot afford that kind of defense. Yet, even O.J. Simpson, through the system, he didn't fare well. He got out of a criminal, but then he encountered civil, and then lost the whole situation afterwards, where he got caught with his memorabilia and all that. So the system gets caught up to you, but at the same time, what are we doing to make sure that we have a level playing field? And right now, everybody's talking about racism, but what are the solutions to it? What are the initiatives that people can take to solve these problems? And I haven't heard any. I heard some, but I'm not sure if that is what it needs to be done. I will talk about that a little more now, but that's it for right now.